Hi, my name is Phil Anderson, and I'm running for United States Senate to represent Wisconsin. Yesterday on my commute home, I was listening to WIBA AM 1310. Not a lot of choices in terms of talk radio in the afternoon. I generally listen to the Devil's Advocates on 92.1 FM and on iHeartRadio. But during commercial breaks, I like to skip around, maybe listen to the Cubs game a little bit. In this case, I popped it on Vicki McKenna on 1310 WIBA. So she's talking to Ron Johnson, and the issue is vaping. Now, you all know what vaping is, right? It's the inhaling of vapors that sort of simulates cigarette smoking to a certain extent, although it's not actually smoke, it's vapor, etc., etc. You get the gist of it. And recently, the FDA has passed rules that say that they're going to regulate vaping the same way they do cigarettes. And of course, we all agree, Ron Johnson and Vicky and myself and all libertarians, I would assume, that regulating vaping in that way is absolutely ridiculous and an invasion of our privacy. But it was interesting that in the discussion of vaping between Senator Ron Johnson and Vicki McKenna, they talked about how the government shouldn't have the right to tell us what to do with our bodies and what we ingest, which I agree 100% with as a libertarian. That is a principle for libertarians. However, it is not a principle for Republicans because the same Ron Johnson and Vicki McKenna do not advocate for the legalization of marijuana and other things that are, by the same principle, should be okay for people to ingest if they choose to and accept the consequences for it. So that's the difference between having a principled position and just having positions that sort of play tug of war with people's emotions, and where the Republicans and Democrats sort of pick sides and by that means keep people separated and hateful and suspicious of each other. Because clearly Republicans don't have a principle that says people should be allowed to eat, drink, smoke, whatever they want if they choose to. It's only when it comes down to certain issues. Republicans don't believe in small government across the board, only on certain issues, and certainly not about defense spending or, for most Republicans, entitlement spending and things like that. Democrats have the same problem. Not to belabor the point, but clearly they're trying to make a principle about something of which they don't have a principle, just a position. And that's the difference between libertarians and Republicans and Democrats. Libertarians have an ism. There is libertarianism. It's a philosophy that's existed for a long, long time, at least as far back as John Locke, and I would argue as far back as Jesus Christ and before that. However, there is no such thing as Democratism or Republicanism. They don't even practice good liberalism or conservatism across the board. They're just a collection of issues that their donors have decided are important to the politicians that they help get elected. It's empty. It's not philosophically based. It's not principled. It's not enduring. It's just day to day, let's decide where we are on issues based on who's backing us and also based on what the other party opposes. Whereas libertarianism, that is classic liberalism, has been around for a long time. So you can count on libertarians to follow what they believe, what they tell you, to follow through on things, because we have a philosophy that you can always kind of look back to. It's kind of like the Ten Commandments, right? If somebody's about to do something that's dishonest, let's say take something that isn't theirs, regardless of the circumstances, if you go back to the Ten Commandments, that is if you're a Christian or Jewish or somebody that ascribes to that, it says thou shalt not steal. That applies to all stealing, not just stealing of one category or another. And it's similar for any other principle like that, where if you go back to a core principle, there's always a way that you can discern how you should act or believe or talk about a certain issue based on those principles, because principle means something that you hold first. Principle meaning first. That's the first thing you look to, is the principle. That's the guiding thing. Not expedience, not public opinion, not whatever else. It's a principle. Libertarians have them, Republicans don't, Democrats don't. I just pointed out one example, but if you examine the positions of Democrats and Republicans across the board, you'll see that they are without principle, without philosophy, and therefore are not trustworthy. They won't do what they say they're going to do. They really only go to Washington or to state capitals or whatever and do what they're told to do by their campaign donors and by their party machines. I won't do that as your senator. I'm clearly principled, and my principles are there for everyone to see. The platform's obvious. It applies to any and every situation that comes across a libertarian's desk or to be voted on. So you can count on that from me as your senator. So please get out and vote. It's a ways away yet, but November 8th, 2016 is going to be a big day for libertarians. Hopefully we'll be electing a libertarian president, some libertarian members of Congress, and all the way down the ticket. to create a more balanced world for us where we can have true dissent on the idea of big government and government being invasive in our personal lives. Thanks, and I will talk to you tomorrow.